Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a die-hard Piston fan since Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Before we get started, please subscribe. And I want to be honest with my listeners. I always try to be. And I got to say that tonight, I'm not excited to share my passion and perspective. For those of you, if you're listening for the first time, I always start out my show by saying I'm excited to share my passion and perspective. Well, there's been a lot of disappointing nights, but no more disappointing tonight. It looked like our team was heartless, like they've given up. And it's hard to watch, and I don't blame you for not watching. I appreciate every one of you that are still listening and hanging in there with me. And I love doing this. I love having these podcasts, and I love hearing the comments and seeing things and sharing this experience with you. But this is just terrible watching this team play, and they seem like the turnovers. We've had terrible turnovers all year, but these turnovers, it's like they just seemed worse tonight to me. But maybe it's just me. And I will be honest, I love Cade Cunningham, and he did not feel like he cared tonight. And I know that all these guys, it's just taking their heart out. It takes their heart out to every night to go out there and lose and have lost 22 games in a row and have everybody in the world looking down on you. And so we know these guys can play. How many times? I mean, I've seen how many games of Cade where he's played incredibly well against tough teams and close games, and he's been tough, and he just battled and played. And even when he gets off to bad starts, he battles back. Not tonight. And we've seen Ivy be spectacular, and still he has to deal with whatever it is that Monty has against him or doesn't like about him. And we've seen Duran play great, and again, that hurts us, but that's, I mean, not the reason we get blown out tonight. And Asar, he's been spectacular at times. So we know these guys, you can think they're no good, and so they can't be any good because we're getting beat every game. But we've seen them play great, and they've never got to play together. I've talked about it in the last two episodes, how those four guys have hardly ever played together, hardly any minutes. So we just got to, hopefully they get a chance to do that this year. But I mean, tonight was incredible though. So, we get blown away. We get beat by a lot of points, and we lost by 32, and we outshot them 43% to 42%. So, but what happens? They made 10 more threes, so we got outscored by 30 points on threes, and they scored 19 more points off turnovers than we did, and then they scored 10 more free throws than we did. And I would just say this, and it's, we deserve to lose. We didn't put the effort in. We were even close. Everything went wrong in the first half. We started out the game the first 7 minutes of this game. We scored 5 points only in 7 minutes and had 6 turnovers. So we had more turnovers in only 7 minutes than we did points. But it is, gets sickening. Embid, he's a great player. He was MVP last year, and he's fantastic, but he just falls down. Don't you get sick and tired of seeing him just fall down on every play? And one time they were running down the court, and Stu put his hand on his hip, and he jumps and jerks. And I'm going to tell you, it is true about Cade. Cade drives to the basket. He got hit a couple times, but he doesn't ever fall. And all these guys fall down all the time. And so, I don't know. Cade has to practice falling. I don't know. He does. He doesn't go that fast. He doesn't jump that high. So when he gets hit, he doesn't. And he's strong. So whatever. But even before the game started, we got no respect. Pat Beverly, who's a punk, he comes out and starts, way before the game. Stu's warming up, and he comes over to him and starts talking. And I thought at first maybe he was talking to try to swoosh things over, but I mean, it didn't end up that good. They didn't get into a fight or whatever. And then Jared Jack, our assistant coach, who played against Beverly when he was in the league, they started talking, and I think Jared Jack was just trying to calm him down or whatever. But no, not Beverly. He had to be a jerk to Jared Jack too. So anyway, there's just things in the league, and I mean, I still see, Draymond. He's kind of the same way as Pat Beverly. And what strikes me about Draymond, I'm not going to talk too long about it, but I talked about it last episode, and um, it shocks me that all these people in the league, all the media and all these people, they're acting like all of a sudden it's worse, and all of a sudden Draymond's got this big mental problem, but he's had it. He's done these things just time and time and time again, over and over and over again, and it's not like this one thing. It's they're acting like, oh, now he needs some help with his mental health, and I don't know. I don't. He's just had this problem. It's just how he's wired, and he's needed help before this, and everybody's just always enabled him and got past it because he's helped him win games. And even Giannis, who we play tomorrow night, um, he got into a weird thing. He scored 64 points against Indiana Pacers, and they played terrible defense. We scored a bunch of points against the Pacers, and he scored like 26 in the fourth quarter, and he was dunking when the game was a 20-point game where there was a big deficit. But anyway, there was a big fight over him. He wanted to go get the ball, but he said he wanted to get the ball to give it to Damian Lillard. But everybody knows he wanted to get the ball for himself because he scored franchise record 64 points. So anyway, so 22 in a row, single season record for most losses in Piston history. And I'm going to tell you, this is not the worst team in Piston history, and that's what kills me. And obviously, we all are, not all of us, but most of us are really frustrated with Monty, and he's done a terrible job. He has not got these guys to play up. They're playing so far below their ability, and that's a coach's job. She can't shoot. He can't. I don't know what he can't do, but he has not inspired them. They are playing listless basketball, heartless basketball, like I said before. But we know that we've seen Cade play great. We've seen Asar play great. We've seen Ivy play great. We've seen Durham play great against good teams in close games and for long stretches. They've played good. Maybe they don't play perfect and whatever, but they can play. But now we got to turn around and go to Milwaukee. By the way, for any of you, I'll be watching tomorrow night, but the game starts at 6. Most games start at 7. So uh, I don't want some of you to miss it if you think it starts at 7 and you miss the first half. But anyway, again, we play the Hawks on Monday, and then we have some time off to get fired up to play the Jazz. And again, that seems to be our best chance to win. But the Washington Wizards, they won tonight, so now they've got 4 wins. They were only 3 wins, so they had off to a terrible start, just like us. But Kuzma and Poole had 30 each, and they won by a lot. And then the Spurs, who were right there with us, they had lost like 18 in a row, and they beat the Lakers by like 14 tonight. So now they're 4-20. But they got the great Greg Popovich, and they have the same players that they had last year, and they were trying to tank, and their players were injured, and they got some really good young players, and they've been doing terrible this year. And they got Victor, who he has been playing a lot of games just fabulously, and they still have a terrible record. So you can have really good young players and still lose games in this league, but that's not where we're at. We are in a bad place, and I just don't. At halftime, we shot 34%. We were 1 for 11 on threes and 8 for 10 on free throws, and we had 12 turnovers at halftime. Um, we were in the game. We had this horrendous start, and until they went on a 15-1 run to end the second quarter, despite how ridiculously bad we played, we were still in the game. So today is December 15th, and it's kind of like the unofficial start, they say, of trade season, even though I've repeated this, that there's been no trades made in the month of December the last 2 years. But that's not going to turn our season around, and we will talk about it probably tomorrow night after the Bucks game. I'm going to talk about some trades, but I heard a guy speak about trades, and what we really need is a two-way wing that can defend and shoot, because we obviously we can't shoot. Except Bojan shot pretty good tonight, but we can't make threes, and so it's a 3-point shooting league. But I heard this guy, Sam Vecini, who's really good. He kind of ran through all the teams and who they might want to trade for and what different teams need. And I don't know if he caught it. He didn't mention it. Every team he mentioned, they need a wing that can two-way wing that can play defense and shoot threes. And so everybody needs them, and there aren't many out there. And the teams that have them aren't like going to let them go. So, it would be a challenge for us to ever get one. So I have a couple ideas, but we'll talk about that probably tomorrow night. So anyway, I want to just mention this again. There's how much to talk about when you got a terrible team, but Ivy and Cade last year, they only played 11 games together. So Cade only played in 12. So one of the games that Ivy must have had to miss at the beginning of the last season, they played 283 minutes together in those 11 games. So this year, in 20 games, and I'm not counting tonight's game, but they played only 299 minutes. So they played almost exactly the same number of minutes this year as they did last year. I mean, yeah, they played almost the same number of minutes, but they've played twice as many games this year. So that's on Monty. That's because Monty won't play them together. And again, we can't score, and he can score. And even if nobody's scoring, he has potential to score. Where again, I will say this, Killian 1 for 6 tonight, 5 points. Livers played 25 minutes, 1 for 4, 3 points. Isaiah Stewart, 20 minutes, and he scored 4 points. So those three guys, and it's maybe not right of me to target them, but they're not great. They're not really NBA caliber players. So why aren't we playing Ivy? He's an NBA caliber player. He's shown that he can do it. He's shown he can do it for a long time. He even showed it this year that he could do it. And he had 5 turnovers tonight, which is awful. And Monty brought it up in the press conference, but lots of guys turn it over, but he can score, he can play, and he can draw fouls, and he can get to the rim. And we don't have anybody else that can do that on our team. So go through the Embiid. He's played only 29 minutes, 9 for 19. He was only 5 for 12 at halftime, so we did a pretty good job on him. And but he was 10 for 10 from the line. So every time we got near him, they called a foul. So he had 20 points at halftime. He ended up with 35. He was 15 for 16 on free throws, though, and he had 13 rebounds. So he's a great player. He's going to be in the MVP conversation again this year, but he falls all the time, and I get sick of it. But anyway, Asar, he didn't get so he got to play again the last 2 games at garbage time. So he didn't play a lot when the game was kind of close, or at least maybe not even close, but on the line. But at the last when Philadelphia, the last 2 games when Philadelphia's had the end of their bench in, he's got to play. So anyway, he was 22 minutes, 3 for 5, 2 for 2 on free throws, only 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, only 1 turnover, and 8 points. So he needs to play. He needs to play 30 minutes. So in a game like tonight, just play him 30 minutes. And I understand Cade was terrible tonight, and so when we got to play back to back, you don't want to load up on anybody's minutes. But Bogey was really great at first, and if you took away Bogey's shooting percentage and Wiseman's shooting percentage tonight, we were pathetic. So we ended up shooting 43%, but we were like 20-some% if you were to take away Bogey's shooting. So Bogey was 26 minutes, 6 for 12, 2 for 5 on threes, 3 for 4 from the line, and 17 points, 3 assists, and 2 rebounds. So he had 3 turnovers, which he made some dumb turnovers. He just jumped up in the air and threw it to the other team. So Stu, 20 minutes and 2 for 6 and 0 for 1, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers, 4 points in 20 minutes. So for my listeners, I have a question for you. You can leave in the comments. What do you think that we would get in a trade for Isaiah Stewart? Who do you think? What kind of trade do you think a team would send us? Considering that he's making $16 million a year, who is going to trade for that contract and for that player? And what do you think we would get in return? Cade Cunningham, 24 minutes, so they sat him, they started him a little bit in the second half, but then they sat him down 2 for 9. I don't know what his career low is, 0 for 2 on threes, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 points. So, but the effort wasn't there. Monty said in the press conference, they just deny him hard, and we don't screen good enough for him, but he is playing. I've noticed it in some other games, but every game it seems like he's playing with less and less heart, and needs to be the leader of our team, and he is a great leader. He's always been a great leader, but this has got him, and it's got him right by the heart, and he just is not delivering, and he is, I don't know what is going to happen, but all these guys are like in depression, which again, they're human. We got to say, well, they're getting paid millions, and they are, and they get to play in the NBA, and that's really cool. So how can anybody not be excited to play in the NBA? But this is really hard. And then, like I said, they weren't getting drilled beat this bad earlier, and it's just because they're not. And like I said, I've seen Cade, even if he hasn't been real efficient, he's battled back and played better than this. And again, the last 11 games before the Philadelphia games, he was shooting really good percentages from 2 and 3, and scoring the ball over 20 points a game. But he's just beside himself. But he's not pushing himself. He's not playing as hard on defense. He's not working hard enough to get open on offense. And again, we've seen it before. His turnovers were sometimes like careless and lackadaisical, but it was even worse tonight for all of the guys. So Killian, 21 minutes, 1 for 6, 0 for 1 on threes, 3 for 4 from the line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 turnovers. In 21 minutes, he had 3 turnovers and 5 points. And so, like I said, it just kills us. We got guys that aren't NBA players that start and play all the time. But Wiseman, and I said this last game, the last bunch of games, Wiseman should gotten to play more. And even the game that against the Pacers, Monty said, oh, he played really great, but he only played him like 13 minutes. Last game against the Sixers, he fouled out, so Monty couldn't have played him more. So that's not on Monty, but he got to play 28 minutes. I'm sure that's a season high by far. 9 for 12. He can score the ball. He can get offensive rebounds and putbacks, and we don't have guys that can just do that. 2 for 2 from the line, 13 rebounds. So, and he had a block shot. So that's a game. I mean, when your team just gets throttled, and Monty said after the game that he earned those minutes, and he was probably our best player on the court, and that he was happy for him. So we'll see. Though it doesn't seem to matter. Ivy can play really good, and then all of a sudden, and even Monty can compliment him and say we need to do more for him to get him involved, and then the next game he just sits on the bench or plays 20 minutes. So again, I've said this before, you got to trust Monty's actions, not his words. Words, not actions. I mean, actions, not words. So Burks again struggled. He was 17 minutes. He was 2 for 8, 0 for 4 on threes, and he's just had a couple games sprinkled in here, but he's never been the same since his injury. Ivy played 29 minutes. So Ivy, I thought, oh man, he played like 20 minutes, and then he sat him down. I didn't think he was going to go back in, but he got to play into some of the garbage time. Last game against Philadelphia, he didn't get to play those garbage time minutes against the other team's second team, but it was 4 for 12, which is bad. And he was 0 for 2 on threes. His threes have just really dropped off since he's been jerked around so bad. And he had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, which is good, but he had 5 turnovers, and that's bad. And so, Monty brought it up at the press conference, but he had 13 points, but he did come in there and he was 5 for 5 on free throws. So he gets to the rim, he draws some fouls, he scores some layups, gets us some easy buckets. But Sasser, second game in a row, I think he was 3 for 3 last game. 17 minutes tonight, 4 for 4, 1 for 1 on threes, only 2 for 4 on free throws, which is weird. I mean, he missed a couple free throws, and then he came down and knocked down a 3. But he had 2 rebounds, 4 assists in only 17 minutes. But like I said, we shot 43%, they shot 42%. So that's crazy to lose the game. But like I told you, we just got killed on threes, we got killed off turnovers, we got beat bad on free throws. So it's a lot of things to basketball that contribute to winning and losing. So again, we had 21 turnovers. With 9 minutes left, we had 20 already. So the last 9 minutes, we only turned it over once. They only had 11 turnovers, and we got out rebounded again, 42-54, and so that wasn't good. But it's just exhausting, and I appreciate any of you that are still following my podcast. I love this podcast, and I enjoy you guys. It means so much to me that so many people have been following it, but I know it's hard. It's real hard, and so. But we're going to go back at it with the Bucks tomorrow night. Remember, the game starts at 6, and hopefully something catches fire and this thing ends finally. So be the reason that somebody feels happy, and do something good for somebody tomorrow, and go Pistons.